is a little bit stiff. That's why I would recommend sitting down with a drummer, you know, a real live guy. Anyway.
Your right hand technique is really well developed. What can you tell us about your right hand plucking approach?
Well, that's the most important thing for fingerstyle bass players, your right hand technique. And the most overlooked aspect of it is having a great spot to anchor your thumb, a great and permanent, well-known spot to have your thumb at all times. So
Home base, huh?
Yes, exactly. All puns intended. And what I do, many, many years, I started off in the Fender bass, which is the basic Fender precision bass pickup position here, these dual split little guys. And I always have my thumb right in here, which dampens now I have it touching the bass and then up against the pickup itself, and then also up against the E string, which dampens the E string. So with your you're always, your E isn't going to be humming along while you're doing anything.
That cleans up the sound too a bit.
Oh yeah. And when you're playing really loud and everything's feeding back, you got to hang on every string for dear life so it doesn't get out of control. And the other place I put my thumb is right on the next pickup here, which dampens the A string. So when you're nothing else is sounding. Actually, the other part of my thumb is dampening the E string too, so I got them both down. On occasion, I'll even get up to there and put my thumb on the pickup itself for just the G string playing. But the important point is to have a spot for your thumb, whether it be one spot or several spots. I'm just used to that from traveling around over the years. Whenever I do anything, I always have my thumb anchored on the bass. Any like hammer-on stuff on the... Always anchored here. It's actually starting to wear the paint on this bass here. I always have a solid point from which to work, and I keep my wrist locked real solidly. Some instructor was telling some kids the other day to always leave your wrists loose and floating over the instrument. The problem with that is when you're on a 60-foot stage running full blast in front of 20,000 people, the monitors are feeding back, people are throwing stuff. You're going to try to play delicately floating. Ain't going to happen. You know, it's not going to work. You're going to fall on your face, basically. So I really need to lock my arm down on the bass, my thumb in the spot, my wrist locked, and my fingers work. The difference between some players that I see work from this knuckle, where I work from that knuckle there. And the reason for that, you'll see some movement in there, but that's more for positioning. The reason for that is when your finger sweeps like that, it creates a radius about that size.
I see.
And when you sweeps like that, the radius is much smaller. And therefore, that smaller radius fits in between the strings better, so you can actually play one string without hitting every other string while making a sweep. Some players play like that. Stand-up players play like that. You also notice stand-up players have a spot for the thumb. It's on the side of the neck.
Yes.
And that's how they play it. Watch the guy the other night playing stand-up bass. He has his thumb locked down there real solidly, and he's got his spot. And on a stand-up bass, there's not too much difference in how any of them are built. It's the bridge thing and the neck and the fingerboard extension over the body, and they're all like that. The problem with electric bass is many manufacturers, everybody makes one different.
Different configurations.
Yeah, so you never got a good spot for your thumb. That's why I make all my basses with this, make sure they got the old Fender style pickups on them, or I can't really ever play them live, you know. Even if it's a real cool custom bass, I have to make and put these pickups in it in order for me to play. So in other words, getting back to where we started from, wrist lock, thumb in a good spot, work from this angle, basically, is how I pluck. And there's even a little bit of technology to how the finger goes over the string. As you tighten this joint, your plucking will become harder because you're digging into it harder. Right. Or you can leave it loose and let it float over, like for raking techniques. See, when you're raking across, these are sliding across. This joint here is actually pretty loose, and it's just kind of like working its way across. Now, if you want to play harder, you tighten that joint up.
Aha.
So it's like your tension control.
Right. Dynamics control.
Yeah. Dynamic tension, even. Hey, why not do both, you know? But yeah, that's kind of the workings of the joint, how I use it. Now, I do a finger exercise sometimes just to make sure I'm really using that part of the joint, which is just try and hold your hand completely still, your fingers completely still, and just work from that joint up one finger at a time without the other ones moving. And it's great at parties too, if you want to do drinking bets and to see
That's
people.
true.
No one can ever do it really. Well, it's actually pretty easy, but then you do twos and different groups of them and whatever. But it's just a good way to exercise your hand, keeping stiff from here to here, totally stiff, and then just working from those joints there. Now you'll see me when I'm playing. Of course, I violate those rules all over the place, but that's basically what it comes from. You know, is using that joint like that for 3 fingers.
Exactly. Now, your main approach is a 3-finger approach.
Right.
Could you describe some of those details for us?
Well, since most Western music is in 4, to get 4 out of 3, you have to, when you're plucking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, if you're going to do 4, 1 lands on a different finger each time. Now, there's a little controversy on which way to go when you're plucking. Should you go this way? Some guys want to go back and forth. But if you're sitting at the dentist office and you're nervous, your natural hands are going to fall in that direction. It seems to be that that's the natural way that your fingers move. So therefore, that's the natural
law of physics, almost.
Yeah, kind of the law of hand physics, anyway. You know, whatever book that was in.